Ooh, happy Halloween. Ooh. Hi. Looks so uncomfortable.
All
Happy
right.
Halloween, Clive.
Hey, Ron. Happy Halloween. No, not happy. It should be full of dread and despair.
Oh,
And
right. Yeah.
yeah, look, I join in. Look, I've drawn a ghost.
Oh, it's a ghost. Very good.
Scary
Ooh.
stuff.
Very spooky. Okay,
Yeah.
well, hi, Clive. So, well, as some of you may know who've been following us, every year for Halloween, we choose a full Halloween franchise to do, not just one movie, not just two, but a whole franchise to do. And so, so in the past, what we've done Halloween franchise, we did the Leprechaun franchise, we did the Howling franchise. Um, Anything else? Any more I missed? Is there any more?
No, I think that's about it. We haven't been doing it for that long.
Is this only the fourth annual? Okay, well, so for this year, you wanted to do some Hammer Frankenstein nonsense, and I said, "Fuck that! Let's do something else."
Yes. Well, to be fair, you haven't actually chosen before.
So I said, "Yes, it's my turn to
This
choose."
is your turn, and you disappointed us all.
Yes, I did. Well, I was gonna go with like Child's Play or just like a Friday the 13th or Hammer on Elm Street. Just go a little vanilla with that. But I thought, nah, let's change it up and let's go with some movies that actually I haven't seen, which actually I was surprised to hear was a franchise, and equally surprised to find out that wasn't really a franchise, but people just call it a franchise.
Yes.
So, but anyway,
Some
that'll be fun.
films.
That'll be fun to talk about, right? So, and this is the so-called Massacre franchise, which is, I guess, technically, according to the internet, 10 films.
Which is always absolutely true, as we all know.
Absolutely, yeah. If it's on the internet, it must be true. So, yeah. So it's 4 Slumber Party Massacre films, 3 Sorority House Massacre films, 2 Cheerleader Massacre films, and 1 Shark film. I'm not really sure. That was really a stretch, I think, right? But it's called, yeah. So Shark and Saw Women's Prison Massacre. I thought these might be just a fun, because a lot of these, actually, I don't think I've ever seen any of these actually on it, but they're all pretty famous. So I thought it's about time I buckle down and watch some of these. Some were fun, some were less fun. Have you seen all 10 of these previously?
No, I'd seen about 4 of them before, and then the others were ones that I studiously avoided over the years until you forced me to watch them. So, yeah.
Which 4 had you seen?
The 3. No, sorry, 5 of them. So the first 3 slumber parties and the first 2 sorority house massacres. And then I didn't bother.
So we were talking about, we didn't actually decide. What do you think is the best way to do these? Is it best to just do the slumbers and then the sororities and then the cheerleaders, or should we jump around in terms of like time?
Let's do them chronologically then. Why not?
Okay. It might be, so you might have to help me with that. I wrote down the year, but it'll be kind of jumping around a bit. So
yeah, no, I know what
you got it all. Okay. All right. So we'll start chronologically, and we'll kind of, there is, if you look at the Wikipedia page for the Massacre franchise, it does show that certain characters come back, or sometimes they're played by other actors or actresses. Sometimes they aren't. They bring them back. So that is the only way that this makes it really like kind of a loose franchise, because they have sort of crossover characters sometimes, and also sometimes one movie will vaguely reference another one or the previous one in the series. So that's sort of like how they keep the loose connection. But other than, there's maybe 3 that have the same killer, 3 or 4 with the same, with what's his face? What's the guy with the drill? What's his name?
I don't know. I just got the drill.
Yeah, the drill. He has a name, by the way.
It's
The
a
drill
fairly,
guy,
it's a
but
fairly,
he himself has very several incarnations as well. So
it's a fairly
yeah.
weak, in terms of a character, it's a fairly weak character, right? He doesn't have any distinguishing Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger
Right.
style, other than his weapon, right? It's
His weapon and I love you. Yeah, I think that
I
was
guess. I mean, it's
kind of,
pretty thin gruel, really. To base.
yeah.
I'm kind of surprised watching these actually that it is, well, not really a proper franchise, but I'm just surprised that it's spawned as many films as it has, really. Do you know what I mean?
But has it, or is it just because it hasn't really spawned? It's almost like these are just kind of almost standalone films that like, let's just connect it somehow to the other person, or
well, I suppose
just pass the same.
when we get to it, did inspire a remake, so there's enough of a,
Right.
they thought there's enough of a interest in it.
I think the original Slumber probably has a bit of. I think a lot of them have sort of grown a bit of a cult following, especially the original Slumber.
I think Slumber, yeah, because the other thing as well that it was famous for, I guess, was the only slasher movie series directed by women, right?
Directed and written by women, right? So so that makes this sort of like but of course that only continues for about 4 or 5 of them, and then like the exploitation guy takes over, and then just basically so but
Jim Wynorski gets his grubby little hands,
gets his grubby slimy hands on it, and then
which is never good.
Okay, so while we dive in, and we got 10 to go through, so we'll try to keep it brief, because I'm sure people will get as bored with this as we did watching some of these movies. So jumping in, Party Part 1, 1982.
Yes, the Slumber Party Massacre, a slim 76 minutes as well.
That was the other thing. It was for the most part, all of these movies were quite manageable in time. There was I mean, even some of them were still padded, even to get out to be between 70 and 80 minutes. Some of them most of them were less than 90 minutes long.
Right.
Some of them were still padded, but at least there was nothing above 90 minutes, I don't think.
No.
So at least that was.
We didn't have to suffer like a Jim Wynorski's director's cut or something like that.
Yeah, right. So, Slumber Party Part 1, actually originally called The Slumber Party Massacre.
The Slumber Party Massacre. Definitive
article. So, I'd say I'll go on a limb and say actually this was probably the best of all 10 of them. I enjoyed this quite a lot, because there's a reason why it gets has a bit of a cult following. I think it has had some decent humor. I think it was going for like the kind of like the comedy horror kind of like and the fact that it was written and directed by women, it makes it notable, and especially considering it's still like quite exploitative, despite the fact that women are directed. Yeah, so I mean, there's like it starts with like the basketball team all having a shower together and stuff, which is kind of interesting that women made that on purpose.
It's director Amy Jones. I listened to the commentary actually, and it's interesting because she's not angry about it or anything like that, but she does kind of stipulate that, well, that's a Roger Corman thing, like that
he put that in.
Yeah, well, that they have to get their tits out every now and then, like it was kind of part of the deal, right? Like you can kind of do whatever you like, but as long as someone gets their tits out every now and again, then you've got some kills. I mean, typical kind of classic common exploitation, because that's what he was famous for, and like the Nikatsu Roman porn films here in Japan as well were famous for, like, well, you can kind of do whatever you like, really, as long as you have some nudity every 10 minutes or something like that, which is kind of it's something I quite like. I quite there's an appeal to that, right? Because like the most crippling thing for creative people is often total carte blanche and free reign, right? If you just say to someone, make a film, but if you put in just a few barriers, it can kind of
A few stipulations or scaffolding.
Yeah. So something about that, I quite like the idea of someone saying, okay, you're going to make a slash film, and do whatever you like, but make sure there's some jugs coming out every few minutes. And you're like, okay, there's something appealing about that, like prefab structure that you can do anything around. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's maybe the other loose thread that kind of threads most of these movies together is almost all of them that use nudity are all shower scenes. Everything is a shower. Every single one is a shower scene. Jim Wynorski definitely.
It got more knowing, doesn't it? Knowingly gratuitous. It's like
yeah.
Like a gag, right?
It's almost a gag. But well, I think Jim Wynorski just likes that. I think so. He really likes shower scenes. But yeah, a couple of them is like, okay, no, and now here's the gratuitous shower scene, right? Everything. So
right. Even in this what I think this first one kind of falls short a little bit of being a really good slasher film, but it's quite. I was watching it again. I was quite impressed how Amy Jones does quite a good job. It's quite well orchestrated. Like some of the jump scares and stuff. Like the timing really well done. She does it really well, and there is a definite knowing sense of humor, but like you can tell she's kind of in on the joke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I said. This one I think hit the tone almost the best. I mean, there's a couple of that kind of came closer, which would be good. This one came like I think a lot of them, the other ones tried to get this kind of like balance of horror comedy and jump scares and stuff like that. And this one I thought did a pretty good job of it, considering it's the first one and considering it was I don't know if this director had ever directed before or whatever, but certainly she didn't do that much after this, right? So
no.
So,
it's not top tier classic slasher, but it's probably on the next and down, right? Like if you're going through
B level.
Yeah. I suppose we should mention just at the beginning, and then that's pretty much what happens is it's an escaped loony bin convict who turns up at a slumber party and kills girls, and some boys turn up to look through the window and they get involved, and that's kind of it, right? That's
basically. But I guess the thing that I think they tried to make it sort of like the iconic villain was by giving him a different kind of weapon, which was this big giant drill,
right?
Like two-handed drill, which became the driller killer. It was sort of ringing off bells. Is the driller killer that term from another movie that we've seen?
Well, we watched the film The Driller Killer.
The Driller Killer. That's what I was like. But isn't there a movie called The Driller Killer? Yeah. So is that somehow connected at all? Like, did they steal it from there, or?
Well, that came first. So, but
the Driller Killer came first.
It does seem like something. It seems like one of those phrases that seems to have passed into common, like a driller killer, right? Like, so I don't know if it was a direct homage
or lift.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But yeah, so he has this kind of big, giant, long phallic.
I think.
Definitely. Yeah, very definitely phallic. Two-handed drill.
Well, that's what's kind of interesting about it. The other thing that interests me, like, what I'm surprised at sometimes when I was reading up about these as well, is for some people it seems to be like they can't quite get their heads around. They're like, oh, these are films written by women, but they've got so much nudity, and I'm not quite sure why people assume like women would have a problem with female nudity in a film.
I think it's because it's gratuitous nudity rather than.
But even that, like for instance, most women I know, my sisters or my mother or my wife, or like,
they like to get naked.
Well, if you watched a film with gratuitous nudity in, I don't think they'd go like, oh, that's I think they'd.
But would they make it like that? Though?
Like nudity.
Yes,
I'm not surprised.
But they're not opposed to it. But if they were making it, would they put it in there? I think that's the other thing, right? Would they choose to add?
Yeah, I think. I can't. Yeah, I don't know. They're not filmmakers, but yeah. But I don't know if they'd. yeah, unless it was like entirely compromising the story you wanted to tell. But it's
Right.
like a slasher film about a man hunting women with a big phallic weapon. It's kind of baked into the format, right?
Sure, yeah. But I mean, as you even said, the director in the commentary track said that she's sort of uh uh kind of she if she had been given carte blanche without Roger Corman, maybe it wouldn't have been there.
Well, she didn't say so much, but I think she brought it up just to kind of say, well, this was part of it. Yeah, I don't know, but she didn't sound like, yeah, like the film had been compromised or that she had a massive problem with it, right? So, but I was just surprised how many people kind of thought the two things were in opposition somehow. I just find that.
Well, I think in general, female nudity, especially gratuitous nudity, tends to be a male thing, right? And that's not something that women would choose to do. So I think it's I can see why people would be confused, or at least it's notable, right? So I think that's why. Yeah. So I think I don't think it's you know I mean we don't there's not a lot of men who like make movies with gratuitous male nudity, right? So it's just sort of like it's a gay guy thing, I think, right? So so I think that's why it's somewhat surprising to the average viewer, I think so.
Yes.
But I think one of my favorite parts of this movie was when he's the killer is getting ready to kill someone, and his hiding place is to lay on the ground and pull a blanket over him. That's one of my favorites. He's just laying there with a blanket over him, right, like that. That was the big hiding place.
Yeah.
And then
yeah, I think the only thing with this is that I'm trying to think what stops it from becoming really good is what. Yeah, it does seem to just kind of run out of road a little bit at a certain point. Like, it's not like this. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like it feels at the beginning you're watching it and it feels like, oh, they've got a good handle on this. Like they're doing another slasher film, but it feels as if there's like I don't know, it just feels very much there's some sort of spark behind it. There's a kind of spark of inspiration a little bit, like, okay, we're doing this again, but we're gonna do it like we're just gonna do it well, bum bum bum, and and then somehow I don't know, it's like they lost interest or something a little bit towards the end. So it just kind of runs out as opposed to building to a really good climax. Do you know?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, definitely. I'd say it's one of the better ones of the whole series. But yeah, and as you said, as we talked about earlier, like it had a lot of pretty good balance. She had a good idea of pacing and jump scares and humor and balancing and some of that. But yeah, I agree. It sort of kind of lost.
Yeah, it's just a
ran out
shame
by
that
the end.
if it was a bit more well constructed in the second half, it could have been like a really fun. It could have been a really good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I didn't listen to the whole commentary. To be honest, it wasn't that interesting. So I don't know.
Right.
The reveal at the end, they might have said they had some prediction difficulties or something.
Roger Corman stepped in and made them do it that way or something.
Yeah, I don't know. You hear conflicting things about Roger Corman over there, but in general, I get the feeling that he's, like I said, as long as you do certain things, he's relatively hands off, right? Like, and very, I think Ron Howard was talking about when he, directed his first film for him, whatever, and he maybe was slightly frustrated by Roger Corman's penny pinching ways or whatever. And I think Roger Corman said something along the lines of, look, if you do a good job for me, you'll never have to work for me again, kind of thing. So he's quite good in that way, I think. Like
I see.
He sounds almost like generous of spirit in that way. Like he's not necessarily wanting to keep someone down and working for them. Like
right.
And oddly, he used to have that kind of way of looking at it, kind of, to inspire fresh talent. Like he's not necessarily.
He's a stepping stone for people.
Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
aware of it as well, right? Like,
Yeah, he's kind of like Lorne Michaels, I guess.
I suppose. Although Lorne Michaels sounds a little bit more controlling and.
All right. Yeah.
weird.
But I think, yeah, to some degree, yeah. So. All right. So that's part one. That starts off the whole thing.
So Sorority House Massacre next.
Okay, on to the Sorority House Massacre, 1986.
Yes, again, a lean 74 minutes.
Right.
So basically, this is essentially exactly the same, except I suppose splitting hairs, right? It's not a slumber party massacre. It is, but it takes place in a sorority house. Therefore, it's a sorority house massacre.
Right.
But
and the link is that the younger sister of the main girl in part one is now the main girl in part two, grown up.
Right. But again,
so
someone escapes from a lunatic asylum, as I believe is the politically correct.
Or no, sorry, I'm wrong. It's not. It's actually the killer's sister.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I didn't.
Yeah. I think it's I put it in. So this one is now it's the killer's sister, and he was originally in the mental facility for killing his family, but didn't get his sister. So his sister was the only survivor, and now has this sort of psychic link to him, that can kind of see him or it's coming. But it doesn't really matter. And this one was I put boring. This one was so boring. Yeah.
This was the one with like the kind of Angelo
trying on clothes, the clothes montage.
Yeah, no, I was Angela O'Neill, the lead is I kept thinking of her. She's very Laurie Petty like.
Yeah.
It's this one, right? That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I think so. They definitely found like the most bland looking girls for this one. Yeah, considering I think the point was that it's supposed to be exploitative with all these like really like hot girls and stuff, which they kind of did more in later installments. But this one was like everyone was like really kind of bland looking, especially the main girl.
She doesn't. She's the one who doesn't get them out though, right? Because
that's true.
Refused to, apparently. That's why in that exciting clothes montage scene, she's the one who just sits on the bed and watches them.
Right. Yeah, and so
no, this one was this one definitely was a major step down. Also, it's got some it's super. It's I suppose the only because I think the one thing we forget because we've lived through the 80s the first time and we were traumatized first time round. We don't necessarily quite have the nowadays
nostalgia.
People love the fucking but for us it's nostalgia, but there's people now who weren't born then who seem to think the 80s were just like fucking amazing. Like I suppose like some people look back at the 60s or something like for some hipsters now, like anything 80s. So I think we forget about that element sometimes, that for some people, just the 80s nature of this is enough. Yeah. They can get off on that. And this is super 80s. There's like...
very... I put that down, very 80s. Yeah. That was my note.
Some lines are, get sensitive and let's catch some tube. I quite like that one. For those of you not born in the 80s, I'll translate. That's like, let's watch some television, I guess.
Right, yeah.
Let's catch some tube. That made me laugh.
Also, this one,
sorry, mixed messages. One of the chicks in this, right, she has on her wall, I noticed, she had a poster of Johnny Rotten and Bruce Springsteen. What the fuck kind of music connection does this girl?
Hey, she's eclectic. She listens to a little of everything, right? So
I watched that. I Johnny Rotten and Bruce Springsteen. I was thinking, oh, hang on now. This is like the fucking. It made me think of what's that horrible film? Oh, School of Rock with that's like a yeah. It immediately made me like of Jack Black's character in that film because I hate School of Rock with a
Oh,
passion. Like I haven't
good to know.
very few films have made me as angry as School of Rock, and I know it's beloved by many people as well. But some people think it's like really funny and cool, and they quote it. But yeah, so this made me think of School of Rock, which is never a good thing.
Excellent.
Oh no,
I've got my next Valentine's movie.
don't cheat though. Do you like School of
No,
Rock?
no, I love School of Rock. I'm one of those
Oh,
people. So.
oh man. Right, this is the last episode of Magic Money.
Anyway, that's off topic. Anyway, so yeah, there's very little gore or exploitation in this movie. I put that like nothing much happens until the final third of the movie. There's like 2/3 of the movie that nothing happens except for there's a trying on clothes montage. Hey, let's try on this person's clothes.
Yes,
someone's clothes, right? Who's like the really kind of. I think she was also a character, or no, she's like kind of like the bitchy kind of sorority sister who's out. So, oh, while she's out, let's try on her clothes. So then they try on all these really terrible 80s clothes, and it's like the kind of like this. I don't. Not Cyndi Lauper, but like that kind of like girls just want to have fun kind of poppy music in the background, and you know, and then it was just sort of like this random clothes montage in the middle of this kind of bland, boring, you know, ostensibly slasher movie.
That's a film I remember enjoying. Weirdly enough, girls
Which
just
one?
want to have fun.
Girls just want to have fun, yeah, in the 80s, yeah. But yeah, that was that. And there's not much happens. There's
I don't even remember what the I mean, at least the killer in Slumber has a drill.
Yeah, I don't remember if this one did or not. Yeah.
No, I don't think.
Yeah, it was it's just like a standard killer.
Yeah.
It's not a yeah.
I don't even remember what he looked like. I don't remember what he sounded like, and I only just watched it, right? And I've seen it before as well.
Yes. It's so forgettable. Yeah. So it's the whole movie was my first note, I just put boring with like 4 O's.
That is
so boring. So yeah, so it's a bit boring though. Yeah.
So
let's move on from there.
So yeah, let's that's another sin against it.
Right. Yes.
Sin it committed, sorry, another mark against it.
Right.
See, it's we can't even talk about it. So let's so
on to Slumber Party Massacre 2.
My favorite of the series.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
1987.
This is more like it.
This one I have some questions about this one. So yeah, maybe you can answer them for me.
I think everyone does, right?
Okay, so Slumber Party Massacre 2, 1987. Starring Crystal Bernard as the lead. Now this time this is the one I mistake. She is the younger sister from part 1. So the main girl in part 1 has a younger sister who's kind of like a boy crazy, kind of like preteen in part 1. Now in part 2, now she's grown up and now she's the main girl. And they imply that the older sister from part 1 is now in a mental institution herself, and she's gone crazy from the events of the first one. But actually, the younger sister is also in a mental institution. She only gets out on weekends or something, or she only gets out. She has to go there for weekends. That's that she has to every weekend. She has to go to the mental institution to check in or something.
I don't remember.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so this is the kind of the more. So this is a real interesting one because they really took a left turn with this one.
Yeah.
And they made it more of like a musical. So it's actually so she's in a rock band.
That's right. Yes.
And and so with her gal pals, and they all they play garage rock or something like that.
It's like a band. It's like when they started a band in like Archie comics or something like that. There's that kind of look, right?
Yeah, like the Archies and stuff like that. So, and they have these really kind of strange, weird dream nightmare sequences. So they're doing something a little bit more interesting with it's not just straight ahead like story, but they have these kind of like interludes where she's having these dream sequences, which are kind of like kind of all over, and they're kind of interesting to watch. And she has these, and a little bit more in terms of the gore, where she's kind of like these real big hallucinations. Like she's one of her friends has a zit, and then ends up
half of her face.
It gives half her face, and then pops like the pus explodes onto her face and that. So, yeah, and then of course they've taken the killer from the first one with the drill, and they've changed him to be almost like a nightmare. He lives in your nightmare, but now he's like a 50s greaser rocker guy.
It's like a Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, Freddy Krueger, but as I don't know, Johnny, who's the closest like a who would he be modeled after? What rock icon?
I don't know, is he like Adamant or something like that? But with a kind of 50s kind of but this is
I was thinking
Atana
I was thinking like a white Chuck Berry or something, like or who's the Buddy Holly? Maybe a Buddy Holly.
There's something about Prince about him as well, actually.
So
but anyway, so so this is the one, because I think this is the one. So Deborah Brock, who also made the sequel to Rock and Roll High School Forever, right? And you see there's a clip from the original Rock and Roll High School, which is a film I really like, on television in this film as well. I think what she's done here is she's taken that you can do anything as long as, like, and she's really gone for it, right? She's like really playing with the format, and like you said, it does turn into a musical. The killer's running around, and it's like he's in a music video, and he's got a guitar. His drill's on the end of a huge
guitar. So it's like making the phallic symbol even more phallic, right? So, and he's like doing these little dances and stuff, and he's like singing and it's like a rockabilly. It's more like kind of rockabilly music. While he's killing, so he's killing with these like rockabilly music, and he's using the song lyrics as his catchphrases. He kills when he goes, "I can't get no satisfaction." Like that's the right.
One of his songs is, "I want to take you down to the record hop and show you everything I got," is the lyrics.
Right.
I don't know quite. It's all over the place, but that's what I like about it, because it's so out of left field, and it's clearly like, I can imagine someone taking this home who was expecting like a serious horror film, like, getting annoyed with it. But I think it's great fun. I like having the rug pulled out for me like this.
It definitely pulls the rug out for me. Like, it's very bizarre. That was my note here. It's a very bizarre movie. It was like, what are they trying for here? It's really like, definitely. I guess if they're trying to pull, as you say, pull the rug out from under you, then they succeeded. But it's like, it's not, certainly not scary. No, and it's certainly not even really funny. It's just really like, what is happening? Like, it's just really.
What I like about it is there's no winking at the audience really, until he starts running around and it turns into a music video. It's like a creeping. Hang on now, like it's not from the go. No, they're not parodying it from the beginning. It just slowly kind of gets odder, and like you said, it's not funny. There's no jokes in it. It's just what the fuck are you doing now? Like, and I like that. I like that feeling.
I'm really like curious, like why. I mean, I can understand. I get the idea, like they wanted to do it more of a musical. There was probably I don't know what was happening in 1987, but there was probably some trend towards more musical movies or something like that around that time. I don't know what was happening, but
I think
they wanted to make her a musician and have some music in there. Okay, sure, but the decision to make him like a rockabilly kind of 50s rocker and supernatural was just it's like, I don't know. I would love to know where I'd love to be a fly on the wall for the planning meeting for this movie, like when they just sat down to like, how can we make this, like, and like how do they. I'm always really interested about like like direction, you know, like there's a like how do they explain this movie to the cast? You know, when the guy playing like the killer, like I was like, so you're gonna be this like rockabilly 50s rocker. He's like, what are you talking like? The guy commits. He's certainly he's well into it, but
he's into it, but he's weird. Like you said, he's not quite this and he's not quite that. So I'm not really sure. It's not a straight up parody of something you recognize. And to your point, that I mean, it's relatively well done. I mean, like the musical stuff, it's not that elaborate, but it's done well enough that you can tell they must have. It's not like they just decided on set, should we turn this into like it wouldn't have worked. They've
committed to it.
Yeah,
they planned it. Yeah.
So it's definitely my pick of the series, just because it's so fucking strange. There's nothing else quite like it. I've always been fond of this. There's a few clues that it's a little bit earlier on that I was watching it this time. So for instance, there's in one of the jocks kind of the main hunky guy, there's a scene with him on the phone in his bedroom, and like he's got this super generic poster on the wall that just says football. There's little touches here and there, because again, that's production design. Someone's had to make that, you know. So and like the weird the frozen chicken that comes to life as well. That whole thing, that I don't know. There's a lot of little bits in which, you know, again, someone had to make that chicken and you know, make it come to life. And so I would also like to know what the reasoning was behind.
I think the other thing, and so I think maybe I was more kind of you were expecting it, so I think maybe you were able to enjoy it more, but I was more like, what the fuck is happening? Like I was more like what are they doing? Like why it's so the whole movie is just a big why, a big question mark.
But that was my response the very first time I saw it, because because now there's a little bit of it's got, and deservedly so, a slight cult reputation. But the first time I saw this, it was totally just grabbed it off the shelf. It's just a sequel. It's going to be more of the same. I didn't expect any of this craziness.
I think the one thing that kind of knocks it down a peg for me was the choice at the end to make, it was all a dream. It was all in her head. You know, like it turns out at the end that she's in the mental institution and she's just been imagining the whole thing. And I think that was like, it was a real big cop out. I think that I
to be honest, hate that point, it's you know, it's like, this has been crazy enough, so fine, you can do that if you want.
Right. So it was it was an interesting addition to this, and I mean they kept the drill, and I guess the main character was the little sister from the first one, so that's kind of the loose connection. But other than that, it wasn't the same person or the same killer or the same this one was actually meant to be supernatural as well, rather than just a crazed killer. So quite different.
I think that's just the influence of the Elm Street series at this point.
Quite possibly. Definitely it seemed like it was off of Nightmare on Elm Street a little bit. So anyway, so the next one we're jumping into the 90s, into 1990, but we have 3 entries from the same year, all from 1990. Do you know which one came out first?
Maybe Slumber 3 we'll go with.
Slumber 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go on to Slumber Party Part 3. Moving on from there, Slumber Party Part 3, 1990. This one again, quite boring. Lots of filler in this.
Very serious compared to, well, obviously the second one, but the first one, like this, had no tongue-in-cheek playfulness, and
it was just
a little bit like nastier in tone, but not in a good way.
It was like a straight up kind of like slasher, but not a very good slasher. This one is
very high red herring quota in this one.
Yes, I put that down. Lots of red herrings. and then I think they tried to connect it by the actual mystery killer was this kind of yuppie blonde guy who they meet on the beach at the beginning.
Yeah.
But he was the nephew of the driller killer.
Yeah.
I think was what they tried to, and so he's like, "This would be for you, uncle," or something. There's some really, really, really thin,
Yeah.
and
such an obvious twist as well. Like,
so. But,
I mean, I don't think anyone was surprised or thought it was actually any of the other prime suspects.
Red Hills, yeah. But they've got these real creepy guy on the beach, and he kind of stares at them, and he kind of just disappears and never comes back again. And yeah, and
the only thing I remember from this one is they play a variation on the old radio in the bathtub, but this time it's a electric dildo, right?
Oh yes, yeah. There's that one.
Electric dildo that I mean, I might be wrong. I'm not up on my dildo history, but it plugs into the wall. It's not a battery one. That's pretty primitive early dildo there, right? Like, sounds like a fucking lawnmower.
It's like I want to masturbate. Damn it! There's no outlet by my bed. I got to run over.
Yeah. It's like people now, when you're with a bunch of youngsters now, they rock up at a place, and the first thing they're looking for is the outlet to plug their charge their phone. Someone's looking to charge their dildo.
Charge their dildo. I gotta plug in my dildo.
So I suppose that was notably different because it's usually a radio or something, right? But
right.
It was a plug-in dildo.
This one still directed by a woman.
Yeah. When written
and directed.
They just can't direct as well as us men.
Yeah. Written and directed by a woman. This one I wrote down a couple notes. Like this one had they had like one part. It was like a motivational speech, but it was totally incomprehensible. Like there was like this long speech about trying to motivate them to do something, but it was just nonsense. Yeah, that was one thing that stuck out to me. And the other thing was that one of the girls who I think came back from part one, maybe, tries to seduce him at the climax. So he's kind of broken in. He's he's killing everyone, and she tries to seduce him to distract him from killing, and lets him kind of like paw her and kind of feel her up and so that. But it has one of my favorite jokes. I don't know. I know you're probably not a big fan, but the American Office.
I've never seen it.
So in the American Office, one of they have a like kind of a running gag. It doesn't happen all the time, but they used it a few times, and it's just a great joke, and it's really and they didn't invent it, whatever, but they used it quite effectively in The Office, where they'll have like a close up of a person being interviewed or talking or doing something, and then they something very personal or intimate or something like that, and then they pull back and there's someone else in the room the whole time, like that. That's kind of the joke. It's like they reveal that there's actually someone else there the whole time, which is so they did this in this movie, but not for comedic effect, on intentional comedic effect. Where so she's there and she's like, oh, okay, well, here you can touch me, and she's trying to seduce him, and then it pulls back, and the other three girls are literally just standing there watching this happen the whole time, right? Like they're just standing there watching him grope her, right? Like they're just not running away, not grabbing weapons, not doing it. They're just watching this happen.
Right.
And then I wrote down, they hit him with a stick. That was the big thing. They hit him with a stick, and then they cover him with a net. That was the big try to get those are the I just thought it was quite ridiculous the ways that they actually tried to deal with this. But overall, this was a real poor entry. It was really boring and a lot of filler.
Agreed. I vaguely, if I hadn't written anything down, it would have totally gone out of my head.
Oh yeah, most of these movies are so like mushed together. I had to write, like I usually don't even write notes, but I had to write notes because I was like, there's no way I'll be able to remember the differences between these movies. So a lot of them are pretty similar. So
anyway, having had enough of these goddamn women, Jim Wynorski wrestles the camera away from them.
Yes. Finally. And
Sorority House Massacre 2.
Sorority 2, okay.
And Hard to Die, which is AKA Sorority House Massacre 3, but it's not really a Sorority House Massacre.
No, it's not. Yeah, it has the same cast though, right? So, and released in the same year.
Yes, well, I think they were made back to back on the same sets as well.
Same set, right?
One thing I would say in its favor is I have to admit, even knowing that, I didn't spot it. Like, they're not obviously filmed on the same sets. Like, they did a good job of actually reusing the sets and them not, I didn't think at any point, they're not in a office building, they're actually in Sorority House in Hard to Die. But yeah, so first Sorority House Massacre 2, Jim Wynorski, the unfortunately prolific Jim Wynorski, who just fucking hell, the number of, as my own fault really, but the number of Jim Wynorski films I've suffered through over the years, like the 80s ones, I think were slightly more variable. Like some of them were could be fun, right? But he's just been on a treadmill of well, we'll see when we get to Shark and Saw, right? Is just oh my god, he's just putting product out there, just again and again and again, and just like, I'm not quite sure how he has the stamina to do it, or like to motivate himself, or why does he not hate himself? Maybe he does. Maybe he's filled with self-loathing, which he should be.
But I mean, there's lots of people out there who churning out shit all the time, right?
But I mean, at least something. I mean, get worse. That would be some form of progress, but it's not. It's just like same level of tedium. Actually, I think that's the worst thing. Is his films like of course he's notorious. There's a documentary about him called Hopatopoulos, right? So he's notorious for doing the gratuitous nudity and all that, which is fine, but I don't think he's even that good at it. Like, I don't think I've ever been turned on by a Jim Wynorski film. Like, he doesn't do it well. Like, his shower scenes are very bog standard. Someone rubbing.
He's obviously a boob. He's obviously a breast man.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's always just like, it's the same shower scene every time. It's like shower. Lather up the breasts. Turn around. Keeping the hair out of the water, the hair's up, and it's like about 1 to 2 minutes and move on, right? So it's every single movie is the same, right? So
but that could be funny, right? You could do that in a sort of amusing way,
but I don't think he's trying to be funny. I think he just enjoys that scene, right? Probably
I think that's the thing that's why I find it difficult, because I personally find it so unsexy that I don't know how you felt about it, but
I guess that's maybe that's his thing. He likes girls in the shower. That's his turn on.
But again, I'm sure you could find a variety of different type of shower, or
right.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It doesn't strike me. How can I say? Like, I can admire a fetish in someone even if I don't share it. But I like to see someone, like, he doesn't fully go for it either. It's not like you said, it's there for a minute or two. Like make an entire film like an hour and a half shower scene or something. Set your whole film in a shower, or just do something like I don't know. It's just it's bland fetishism. I think my problem with it. It's very
well, we know that your tastes extend to the extreme, so I think he knows what he likes, and he repeats it.
But it's just, I don't know. Like, it's. I'm trying to think what a good analogy would be. Like, I was gonna say it's like a drive-through or something. But then again, that has that has an utility. Like the fact that if you go to McDonald's and the McDonald's always tastes the same, that's in its favor, right? That's an utility. That's what you want. You go there to taste.
Right.
But I'm not sure if that extends to, well, for me at least, that doesn't extend to films. Like I don't think I like going to it. Again, this might be me and wondering what you think about this. Like, I expect this film to be this way. I watch it, it's exactly that way. I am pleased. Like, I don't think that works. Like, I think I would rather be surprised. How about you? Do you sometimes think, like, I want this film to be this way, it's that way, I am happy? Or
Well, I think there's certain like rules of what he's allowed to do, that makes it stay within a certain rating, without going into X-rated or so that. So I think he's obviously a breast man, and he likes his fetish is that he likes girls in the shower, and he's like, okay, and this is it's an easy way to get some gratuitous nudity in here, but without straying too far into the X-rated territory or whatever it is,
no,
right? So
I'm not saying it has to be more extreme. What I'm saying is, I mean, you can make something really, really, really sexy with the.
Well, I think I mean
with your clothes.
We're getting to Hard to Die after this one, which I think we'll talk about that when we get there. But I think it was hilarious that he just the sprinkler came on. We all work at a lingerie shop. I guess we all gotta wear lingerie for the rest of the movie. Like, I thought that was kind of funny, right?
But that's what I mean. I'd like more of that. If you say, like he doesn't he doesn't always, like, if those moments are few and far between, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. But I think he again, everything is kind of the same, and he's kind of got like a structure, or like a standardized scaffolding that he uses and stuff, and it is kind of a paint by numbers, fill in the blank. And yeah, you got to have the shower scene. That's sort of like it's almost like, I think at some point it becomes almost his trademark, right? Like, oh well, you got to have, maybe it's a drinking game for people watching Jim Wynorski games. Oh, here's the shower scene. We take a drink, right?
I'm just wondering what he gets out of it, right? Because he's been doing it for that's what. So these early ones, so Sorority has especially Hard to Die. I think it was kind of, the joke was still kind of funny. My point is, he's 30 years on. He's still doing that, and I'm not quite sure why he hasn't thrown himself under a bus or something at this.
I think probably he's still making money, still doing whatever he does, and it's still working for him. Whatever, I'm sure it pays his rent. So as long as it pays his rent, why fix it if it ain't broke? Probably, right? So
I guess.
I guess. I mean, again, I can't answer for him without talking to him personally about it, right? So I mean.
Yeah,
so
he's not.
I'm sure he has his reasons. Yeah,
I'm sure he's a fan. He's going to come on.
Yeah.
The show. You're welcome, sure. Jim. If you want to come on and explain yourself.
You'll have some explaining to do. Okay. Well, anyway, let's move on. Let's go back in.
Hang on. Let's. Yeah. So we haven't actually. So Sorority House Massacre.
Yes, I mean, let's get back into Sorority House Massacre too.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to move on.
No, let's back to the movies is what I mean. Right. So Sorority House Massacre 2, 1990. This one used footage from Slumber House Massacre 1, but they changed and used it in different contexts. Right. So they used the footage, but instead of him, doing it at a slumber party, it was actually his family he's killing. So they kind of changed the context.
Yeah, it kind of shows how cynically interchangeable these films are as well, that they went slumber party as opposed to sorority. Yeah. Actually, there was one thing I wanted to say about, I forgot to mention about was it Slumber Party? So yeah, I think it was another thing I liked about Slumber Party Massacre 2 is so in Sorority House there's a clip from Slumber Party Massacre on television, right? In Slumber Party 2, they used the clip from Sorority of someone watching Slumber. So it's that eternal strip thing, right? Right. The Mobius strip, I guess. Right, yes. Massacre. So I thought that was kind of funny that they, anyway.
Right. So this one makes some attempts at humor. They've got like the creepy guy Orville Ketchum, who's kind of this creepy
Peter Spellos.
What's that?
Peter Spellos.
Yeah, who who's sort of like the next door neighbor or something, and he's also kind of like the caretaker or the whatever. He's got the key, and in order to get he's going, here, I got something for you. And he reaches down his pants and he pulls out the key, all that kind of stuff, it's like, and then there's a part with they showed newspapers and like different like headlines in the newspapers, and the last one is like Elvis lives, like I mean they're trying. I kind of, I don't know how close this analogy is, but it's almost like Ed Wood movies where he's sort of like he's just wants to do it, and he doesn't really care if it's that good or not. He just kind of keeps churning them out, right? So Jim Wynorski is what I mean. So
yeah, I don't. I find Jim Wynorski not as inspired as Ed Wood, I think.
Yeah, I guess right. So, but yeah,
he's yet
this one
he's yet to write a masterpiece such as Orgy of the Dead.
Right. So this one has again he's brought the exploitation in like full force. This one, right? So big shower scene. He's generally speaking chosen better looking women now, I think. So I think he's.
I think we're in the era of. I mean, we've moved. So this is the era where you put. You had. This is the Scream Queen era, right?
Right.
Certain names would shift units, right? And Jim Wynorski had his, that's his other thing, right? Was he did cycle through a whole bunch. He created a lot of Scream Queens, right? The one so there's one Gail Thackeray or Robin Harris. They all have pseudonyms as well for these films.
But she's Gail Harris in real life, but goes by Robin Harris in this one.
Gail Thackeray, that's a real name.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. So she's the former Page 3 girl from Yorkshire, and I couldn't figure out watching this film. I couldn't figure out, is she actually trying to do an American accent every now and again?
Occasionally, yeah. The accent comes and goes. Yeah, definitely.
But it was hilarious. It doesn't just come and go. It's just like totally not there. Like from the opening scene when she's saying to someone, she's like, "You gotta remember, you gotta remember, you gotta." I was like, oh, but then every now and again it goes a bit American.
Goes away, yeah. I remember it took me like a little bit before I realized, wait a second, does she have an accent? And then it was like, oh yeah, and then it became really obvious that she had an accent. I was like, how did I miss that before? I think she was trying to like hide.
Yeah, it's funny. I couldn't figure, because what happens sometimes, of course, is people come over to the States and their accent automatically goes a bit yank, right?
Right.
I couldn't figure out, oh, maybe that's just what happened. Maybe she's just in the States she's picked it up. Or is she actually trying, but she's really not very good at it?
Not doing very well.
Yeah, I couldn't quite figure it out. So that kept me slightly entertained.
Yeah.
You got Melissa Moore as well. I realized watching this as well. I hadn't realized this before, but because I'm not a fan or anything. But Melissa Moore, it turns out, was key to my blossoming puberty, I think, because
really?
Like when before you properly become a horny little teenager, there's like little flashes in films here and there that kind of, hang on now, I'm feeling quite excited by that.
That makes shifting. I feel shift.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Oh no, just like where things shift down there.
Yeah.
I
remember one of those earlier ones for me, I think, was the Leslie Nielsen film Repossessed. There's like a scene at the very beginning, I think, where he's giving like a sermon or something, and there's like a sexy woman in the front row in like a revealing dress, and it turns out that was Melissa Moore. For all these years was.
Oh wow!
So that was kind of interesting to reconnect with. Yeah.
Well, good.
A lot of come under the bridge since then, but
you're right. Yeah. So this one, it's back to a sorority house, and so for some reason, this one they just get into lingerie and they spend most of the the movie in lingerie. Not really explained why they all kind of have a shower individually.
That's a film. That's
Yeah, of course.
yeah,
And then they
yeah.
just get into lingerie and just stay in lingerie. At least in Hard to Die, they kind of give it a reason why they wear it, but this one they're just like, we're just gonna hang out in lingerie the whole time. And this one has he tries to make it more, instead of a slasher, he tries to make it supernatural again. There's
Yeah.
a Ouija board.
Yeah.
And they have like a kind of like a seance kind of thing, and it's supposed to be like a getting the opening, it's the kind of awakening the driller killer's spirit or something, I guess, or I don't know, something like that. But this one has some really interesting kind of types of humor. Like there's one part where they go to the strip club.
Yeah.
And then there are these two
The Arab.
the Arab, the sheiks, which I don't know if you looked in the cast list, they're actually called Abdul and Shmabdul.
Right.
It's actually their character names.
Babe. Those, yeah.
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 So they're
those visual gags that you're not allowed to do anymore, right?
yes, yeah, definitely the very un-PC by today's standards, but yeah. And then they kept having this like lightning inserts, but it was all obviously quite light, like cartoon lightning. So they kept having like lightning happening. And in this case, the killer's name was Hochstetter. Hochstetter was his name at this point. And but yeah, I put that there's a hilarious ending in this one where the Hochstetter ghost possessed one of the girls, right? And then the creepy neighbor who is the red herring, Orville Ketchum tries to stop him, but he gets stabbed and shot with shotguns and all this stuff. And then at the very, very end, the police comes in and goes, "This man is still alive," right? Which I thought was pretty funny. Anyway, and then that kind of leads into the next movie, which is Hard to Die, where he really is quite hard to die. And then it ends with the end with the question mark, right? So that was that one. And then they had one of the earliest mid-credit scenes too as well, right? So I'd love to track the history of mid-credit scenes or post-credit scenes. So this one had one, so where he's still alive, and yeah, and it said also the credits had Orville Ketchum as himself, so he didn't even get credited. So the actor. Sorry, you were gonna say something?
No, I was going to say, so you got Tony Naples as well from the Deathstalker 2. She's a cop. And porn star Savannah turns up as Satana McVixen. She's she's the stripper in the strip bar, right? With the hilarious cheeks.
Right. Anyway, so this one was kind of fun. It was yeah. It wasn't it definitely was better than the other last two couple boring ones. It had moments of fun in it for me. So it made it less of a slog anyway. So how about you?
Of the two, I think I preferred the next one we're going to talk.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, the other one was much better. I think it had a little bit more of a, but this one it wasn't terrible. Anyway, this one it was a little bit more watchable, I thought, than at least more than Sorority House 1 or Slumber 2 kind of thing. So, or I mean Slumber 3, I mean.
Right.
But this one had I put down that it was I don't know what your copy had, but my copy actually ended with trailers for other movies.
Yes.
Which was really, really fun, actually. That was one of my favorite parts, was watching these trailers for has a trailer for Slumber Party Massacre 3, which is this one that has all these red herrings, but the trailer actually gives away the killer in the trailer, which is like taking it to an extreme, I think, right? And then, have you ever seen Emmanuel First Contact?
Yes, once upon a time.
Did you see that? Yeah, that looks hilarious. That movie, so it was the tagline was "Who better to or it was like the first contact with aliens. Who better but the most sensual woman in the world?"
There's a new Emmanuel.
Is there?
Yeah. Yeah, someone interesting is directing it. I think it's a woman actually who's making the new Emmanuel film, and also someone interesting playing I was kind of surprised of all the things that there's a new Emmanuel remake coming, but there is on your screens soon.
Oh, great.
It'd be
Anyway.
interesting because obviously it's going to be so different from the old Emmanuel film.
Right.
But I'm kind of quite, because it's almost the type of film like you can't imagine them fixing it for today's environment. It seems more like, well, just don't do it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm really curious as to how the fuck they're gonna do a new
updated
Emmanuel kind of PC Emmanuel film.
Right.
I'm really curious as to how they're gonna go about that. It just seems like at its base just something you just wouldn't. It's not the type of film you do now. So I'm assuming they're going to do something clever or interesting. I can't remember who it was making it, but it was someone like it was someone like, oh, that sounds interesting to see what they'll do with it. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else to say about Sorority House Massacre 2?
Not really. Let's Hard to Die.
All right, so this is the same year, 1990. Mostly the same cast, but as different characters now.
Yeah.
Called Hard to Die, and sort of subtitled Sorority House Massacre 3, but has.
Not really.
Oh yeah, I mean technically that's the subtitle, and it's known as Sorority House Massacre 3, but it does not take place in a sorority house. These are not sorority house sisters. Basically, the only link they have is that they say, "Hey, weren't you from that thing at the sorority house a couple years ago?" So, and Orville Ketchum is there as working in this department store. So he's back.
Actually,
and so that's
enough. Even though it's not a sorority house massacre in any way, shape, or form, I would argue that the link between Sorority House Massacre 3 and this is actually the strongest link of all of them, almost, because he is that character, right? He
is the same character, yeah.
He's a janitor or something at this office building. Right. Interesting is that the other thing that's interesting about this film is, again, we're talking, it's such a relic of its time, right? Is its peak video, its peak screen queen. So I seem to remember this film, not in the UK, but in the States, I remember this was available like in 3 different well, it's the same film, but it was available in 3 different kind of
letterboxes.
It was Sorority House Massacre 3, Hard to Die, and Tower of Terror out in video stores at the same time. So if you were unlucky enough to pick up like
all 3 of them,
yeah,
there were 3 different movies, but the same movie.
I'm wondering if that ever actually happened to anyone, or if they went home with 2 versions or something, thinking they were different films. But they were marketed. So the Hard to Die one is, I think the video box cover was like, it tried to make it look like Die Hard. Because this film as well does have those occasionally exterior shots of a high rise, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then the Tower of Terror one was, I don't know what that tried to make it look like. And then obviously Sorority House tried to make it look more like one of the Sorority House Massacre films. And they had totally different artwork and everything.
Right.
It's kind of interesting to consider something that, they used to, people don't do that anymore, really, right?
Yeah.
They don't have the same film under 3 different titles on
3 different names. So but yeah, so the same girls as part 2, but they're different roles plus Orville Ketchum. And Orville kind of tells what happens in part 2, but they use footage from Slumber House Massacre 1 as the footage. But he's talking about
that's become a running joke at this point, right? I think.
Right. Okay. So
which actually made me laugh. But again, I don't know if that would be funny. It's just because if you're watching the films in sequence.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, what order did you watch them in? Did you watch them in chronological order?
I did, yeah.
Okay. I did all the slumbers and on all the sororities, all the cheerleaders.
Okay. And then well, it's kind of the same. They only just go out a little bit.
So a couple funny things in this one. The name of the department store they work in is Acme lingerie, which I thought was I laughed out loud at that. I thought it was funny. Yeah, and so as I said earlier, they find like a fairly clever way to get them all into lingerie for the whole movie, which is that they have to go down their kind of shit asshole boss makes them go do inventory in the basement of the room of the building,
Right.
and one of them sets off a fire accidentally, and then they all get wet, and so they're already skimpy clothes. That well, we work in a lingerie shop. I guess we have to wear lingerie because our clothes are wet for the rest of the movie. So they wear lingerie for the rest of the movie. And again, still shower scenes, same thing, same shit, different movie, right? This one I thought it was stupid, but it was more fun. It didn't take itself seriously at all, right? So at least the other ones tried to. It definitely was a little bit more of a wink at the audience. This one, I thought it was.
It depends on your mood, I think. I think if you're in a forgiving mood, you would enjoy it a bit more. But if you were kind of grumpy, then
what mood were you in when you watched it?
I was grumpy, so it annoyed me a little bit. But I could also imagine seeing it when I was in a slightly better mood. I mean, I was in a bad mood because I've been watching Slumber Party Massacre films, so that's
right. Kind of yes, I guess, yeah.
But I mean, if I'd have seen this like by itself,
right?
After a more nutritious diet of other films,
right, yeah,
and it would have been more fun.
I think it was more like stale bread to a starving man, right, kind of thing. So it's
right,
yeah. So it's but it's this one I said it was really like it's just a batshit crazy climax to this movie. I don't know what the hell is going on. There's a whole bit. The whole movie is kind of like crazy. You don't know who the killer is. You don't really know what's going on half the time.
There's this box,
and there's some sort of Egyptian box when they release some sort of thing. I don't really know.
Forrest Ackerman sits behind a desk and for the majority of the film and gets on the phone and stuff because it's supposed to be delivered to him, right? So that's another thing is that it's a Forrest Ackerman. It's one of his big cameo appearances, right? Because he's usually only in the film for like a few seconds or something. Right?
Who is he?
Oh, Forrest J. Ackerman was he was the publisher behind Famous Monsters of Filmland.
Oh, okay.
For a certain generation, for that Monster Kid generation, he was extremely famous, kind of lovable uncle-like figure of horror fans. So that's why he's in loads of.
He's not on screen, but he's an author. You said.
Oh, he's not an actor. No, he was the publisher of Famous Monsters of Filmland, and he
publisher.
And he kind of put himself in it. Like he was famous for his terrible puns and like. Kind of a minor celebrity for a certain generation of. Yeah, I'm surprised you don't know who Forrest Ackerman is.
No, I don't know who he is. Yeah,
he's kind of like I suppose like he wasn't a horror host, but that level of like a Zachary or something like that. Well, he was the guy. Oh, so you were watching this film and you had no idea who the guy in the glasses behind the desk. Oh, okay, that's interesting. And that also changes the tone of the film, right? Because it's kind of like a stunt casting, they'd call it now.
Oh, I see. I didn't know who he was. Anyway, so it's something to do with there's crazy shit about Egyptian boxes and Hochstetter's ghost possessed one of the possessed one of the girls. And then it tries to make you think it's Orville again, but he's really they really try to hammer this point that he really seems like he's the killer, but you're really kind of supposed to realize that it's the big reveal at the end of both of these movies is that no, he's actually been trying to save them the whole time from this ghost, but because he used to work with Hochstetter or something like that, but although he actually mistakenly kills one of the girls thinking that it is Hochstetter, but he like breaks her neck and drops her down. But it wasn't.
They break out some machine guns as well in this one.
And then like the one part where he gets shot. My favorite thing is that he gets shot one time and he gets a bandage out and he puts the bandage on his shirt. Right, and and he falls off the building and the whole camera shakes and just stuff like that. It's all these machine guns and right, and it's just real like batshit crazy, like turns into an action movie, and then at the end, it's supposed to imply that he falls in love with Robin Harris, his character at the end. I don't know. It was a real stretch anyway, but it was just kind of crazy nonsense.
Yeah, Jim Wynorski turns up in this one as well, doesn't he? He has a small bit. Actually, he was
Right.
in Sorority Massacre 3 as well, but only for like a second or two. I noticed him in that bar with the sheiks.
Oh, okay.
And in this
I don't
one,
know what he looks like. So
he's the guy directing the porno film, right?
oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know what he looks like, so I didn't know it was him. So
In he directed this one under his Arch Stanton pseudonym, which is another film reference. Arch Stanton is a name on one of the gravestones at the end of The Bad and the Ugly.
Is that, and that's his name, his pseudonym?
Yeah. So that's
Did he ever direct porn?
Jim Wynorski?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. David Dakota did, but I don't think Jim Wynorski did. No.
Anyway, so that's sort of the end of this sort of era.
Lloyd Kaufman did it.
Oh, okay. He directed porn?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, anything else to say about Sorority House Massacre 3 Hard to Die?
Not really. I would say this is probably probably the second or third most interesting, maybe.
Okay.
I mean, this is, and then below this you don't need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Right. All right. So now we jump ahead 13 years to the 2000s, 2003. So the franchise effectively died for 13 years, and then it was revived. And
well, apparently they did make a fourth Slumber Party Massacre film.
Right.
That was never released.
Right.
Which kind of surprises me that it still hasn't. You know, if it was done, it's exactly the sort of thing you could bring out on a Blu-ray now, and stupid people would buy it, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm wondering why that hasn't happened.
Yeah. There's got to be some legal thing, because otherwise, I mean, why wouldn't he? I mean, he releases everything else, right? So he'd have no reason other than being told he's not allowed to. I mean, that'd be the only reason that he couldn't. So
who knows? Maybe it's on the way. Maybe it's
yeah, could be
in stores tomorrow.
Fingers crossed. All right, so then we jump right into 2003, the next one, where he Jim Wynorski revived the Massacre, quote unquote, franchise, and but changing the title to now Cheerleader Massacre. So now we're into the Cheerleader Massacre. This the very weak link here is Brink Stevens.
I would say good title.
Good title, Cheerleader Massacre.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd love to watch cheerleaders being massacred.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I like Sorority House Massacres and Slumber Party Massacres too, I guess. So
yeah, there's something really kind of punchy about you're gonna get cheerleaders and a massacre. That's like, oh yeah, two great tastes that go well together, kind of thing. Shame,
unfortunately,
yeah, it doesn't work out that way. But no.
Unfortunately, this is a real boring piece of shit.
Yeah, Jesus,
yeah, real
boring. Yeah.
Oh fuck, it was so boring. This one, something about the weak link of this one is Brink Stevens, who was from part one. One of the girls from part one comes back, and now she's kind of older, and she just has like a one scene kind of monologue, but we're not really sure why she's there, but it's meant to kind of connect it all in.
That's what Brink Stevens was doing at this point, though, I think, in the early 2000s, was appearing in about a bazillion films for a few seconds each time.
Right, yeah, right. Yeah, and it's just basically they're cheerleaders in the mountains, and there's a escape killer in the mountains, and a little bit of exploitation. I just said it was boring, and the thing that made me laugh was that the snow kept appearing and disappearing. Right. Yeah, so that was what it. Anything else you want to say about this one?
Someone made the classic over and out mistake on the CB radio.
Which
that
is what?
annoys me. Well, that you
Which
said.
is what?
Well, you're not supposed to. No one says over and out, right? Over means it is now your turn to speak.
Right.
And out, you just say out.
Hmm.
No one says over and out because it contradicts. But they always do it in movies. Over and out, over and out. And always. It's really annoying.
Hilarious. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, it's bad CB etiquette.
Yeah, sure.
And people do it in movie after movie.
Oh.
When will people learn?
I didn't realize that you were a trucker. And when you had a whole other life as a trucker.
I'll catch you on the flip flop, good buddy. See, I know all the lingo. But no, this is boring as fuck. Apparently, I didn't notice it. There was an exploding pickup truck or something. There was footage from Humanoids from the Deep, which is a much more enjoyable film. But I don't remember. That's another thing.
Then I think the car fell off the cliff or something, and then like exploded or something.
That's another thing Jim Wynorski was doing at this point. Not just Jim Wynorski, but he was doing it was taking
footage from other movies.
Yeah, explosions and like even some quite high profile. Like I was there was a few, not just him. There was what was the name of that? There was a video Royal Oaks. They were like another direct-to-video and cable, like churning out endless action films around this time, and you'd get footage from like films that were quite high profile. I don't know if someone else had bought like a catalog of films and therefore they could use like if you remember the film Red Heat, Schwarzenegger and James Belushi. Yeah. Big movie, right? And it's famous having a bus chase in it, right? That footage from that bus chase turned up in a whole bunch of films around this.
Oh, really?
And I was also surprised to see because I was thinking, oh, that's like if it comes from a film no one's heard of, that's one thing. But I was surprised they could get away with using. But obviously, someone owned it.
Owned it and was licensing it out, I guess. Whatever.
Yeah. So you would see Red Heat, all sorts of quite a bit. Money Train. I seem to remember footage from that turning up in these because obviously, it makes your film look a little bit more. Gives it more.
Yeah, having some explosions, of course, makes it look better, right? So.
Yeah. But fuck me, this was
boring.
Boring.
It's so boring. Yeah, I don't even know. I couldn't same thing. I couldn't tell you who the killer was, or what the reason was, or what they look like, or what anything. I couldn't even remember any of the girls in it. It was like just so bland. This one, it's
even though it did have quite a few. If you follow Scream Queens and things, I think you know Tani Sheffield, Julie Smith, I recognize, Nikki Fritz, but some of these are just and there's a Penthouse Pet and like you said, Brink Stevens but do you see what I mean? Now this is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of crap Jim Wynorski's. There's a lot more of this than there is Hard to Die.
Hard to Die is right. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, anything else you want to say about that one?
No.
Okay. Well, that's the end of Jim Wynorski, I think, for now, right?
Hey!
Yeah, except for we have one more Shorkensaw, but and then he effectively killed the franchise again for another 7 years until 2011 when it got revived by Brad Rushing. Do you know Brad Rushing from anything else?
No, I looked him up and he seems to be, I think this was his only film as a director. He seems to have been a cinematographer.
Okay.
That seems to be his main gig. Yeah, so Cheerleader Massacre 2 begins very well.
Yeah, I thought it had a really strong opening. Yeah.
So basically there's a busload of cheerleaders out in the desert and some weird drone-like flies about.
Definitely something you weren't expecting. Like it's not like a killer like with a drill, or it's just sort of this random drone with buzzsaws on it.
Yeah.
And not great, but not terrible CGI.
Yeah,
Considering it's very low budget, 2011.
Yeah,
it wasn't. It was it was passable enough to enjoy it,
the
right?
concept is strong, right? Because I
Yeah,
thought, oh, is this gonna? I thought there'd be like 1 or 2 survivors, and then it would turn into one of these, kind of suspenseful one location films where,
right.
how are we going to get out without getting killed by these drones? And I thought, oh, cool. This is more like it. I'm glad Jim Wynorski's gone. Let's see what Brad Rushing is, but other than that opening scene, the rest of it is again increasingly, because that beginning had high hopes. I had high hopes. I was like, oh, here we go now, and it might even be. Is it a pre-credit sequence? Maybe I think it might be.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, okay, let's see what happens.
Yeah, it was a cold open. Yeah. So
and then it goes back more to it's a cheerleader. The 2 cheerleader squads are gonna face off in some sort of cheerleader camp or something.
Cheerleader camp competitions. It's like 2 teams or something like that. And so that's the one team that just got massacred in the bus that we just saw. And so the other team is there waiting for them, and they're getting ready. And so then slowly but surely, more kind of not the buzzsaw drone, but other kind of mechanical electronic death machine things. So they're all kind of mechanical contraption death things that are all kind of used to kill them one by one. Kind of in a very
not bad. They're fairly, sometimes they are actual practical effects, and when they're not too bad. But increasingly as the film goes, it just realize, oh, hang on, this is rubbish.
This is again more boring, and just feel like they had a really strong opening, and then I think that was really all he had, and then he just kind of just trying to fill it out, making a full length picture, but it was just like ran out of steam quite quickly. There was like one time there was an electrified shower, which I thought was kind of strange, and the power line falls down. I put like the style of acting was like porn star level, like it was like really like porn level, like really poor acting. And
lead was quite cute though.
Yeah, the girls were all pretty cute in this one. It was not bad. They're all kind of thing, but they had the red herring kind of creepy guy. I thought looked like Uncle Fester. And then they occasionally, a couple of these movies have occasionally like diamonds in the rough of these sort of like character actors who come in for like a couple lines. Like this one had a pretty funny security guard who I thought was pretty funny in this one. The security guard came in. He
wasn't bad. He's a bit like a SNL character or something.
He was real kind of like this kind of character. He had kind of funny lines like, "I'm not the biblioteca." It was one of my favorite lines. And
I think he might actually, because I remember looking at, so the only thing I notable about Cheerleader Massacre 2 is, even though you've never heard of any of these people, a lot of the people in it do actually seem to have quite a lot of credits, and I think maybe that guy might actually, I think more than one of the cast members might be stand-up comedians.
Oh yeah, that I would believe it if that guy was obviously.
It seemed like there was a bunch of people when I was looking. These people are like, even though you've never heard of they've been in lots of things, and they're kind of active in some form or another, either comedians
in the independent film community, I guess, right?
Yeah, like the guy who played the guy who ran the camp as well. He's like produced shitloads of films, like very low budget things, but one that looked actually quite interesting, Bathtub Shark Attack, I might take a look at. Speaking, sorry to go back, but another plus to Slumber Party Massacre 2 I forgot to mention was the guy who plays the cop in it.
Yes, actually, I put a note of that. I skipped over it because
really enjoyed himself.
I had the same thing. Yeah, so he really committed. That he's a real tough cop. That's what I was saying. Like a couple of these have diamonds in the rough. So the two guys that stuck up for me was the guy from Slumber Party Massacre, the cop. He really like committed to his like tough cop thing.
He was.
And then and then this guy too with the security guard, right? So there's always there's a couple of these really character actors who kind of like give you a little bit of moments of like, oh, sit up a little bit, right?
Right,
So yeah,
right. Also, the surprise reveal of this as well is just so obviously going to be the surprise. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, it's just one of the cheerleaders, and yeah, so sure enough, yeah.
well, no, it's not. She's not a cheerleader, right? But she's the nice friend.
Wasn't she one of the cheerleaders? I thought she was on the team too, wasn't she?
No,
Oh, okay.
She
Well, I don't know. It was
hated
one
all
of,
yeah.
I don't know. They were all kind of like, by that point, I kind of lost interest, so I didn't even. It was one of the girls, I guess. So,
Right.
yeah. Anyway, it was too bad because it started out so good. So it was, yeah, definitely, too bad in that case.
Very serious. Apart from that one character, very serious as well. This one, right? Like,
yeah, not really much of a sense of humor.
no, it would have been fine if it had stuck to the promise of that opening scene, right? Like, yeah, that would have been cool. But yeah, no, real shame, really. That yeah.
All right.
Almost makes you wish that Jim Wynorski would. Oh, and here he is.
Oh, and here he comes back. He's come. Wynorski rides back in.
And outstays his welcome almost immediately.
And this one, okay, now this one is really, really a stretch. There's really nothing that has no connection to the other movies other than the word massacre in the title. I mean, like, that's literally the only connection I could see. Did you find anything else? And Jim Wynorski, of course.
No.
I can't understand why this is considered part of this
everything's
franchise.
Everything's a stretch here. Everything's a stretch. I mean,
but at least in other ones, they made an effort, like, oh, that's the person from, or here's something on the TV, or that's the character from blah blah blah, whatever. But this one has it doesn't even try to connect it. So I don't even know why people consider this part of this franchise. So,
well, I don't think it is really, is it? I think someone.
Well, I mean, I was just going with like the Wikipedia page of like the list. Here's all the massacre, and someone obviously thinks it is because it was considered the standalone film in the massacre franchise. But I don't get it. It was just a shark film, right? So it's I don't
even
know.
the title. I mean, it's like someone was obviously smoking a blunt and was like, dude, like if you put a S and a H in front of Arkansas. It says Sharkensaw. Oh, tell Jim.
That's G. Jim, call Jim. Jim, dude, put an S and an H in front of it. Oh, well, how can I get some girls in it? Women's prison. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so we have the Sharkensaw Women's Prison Massacre.
No nudity though in this one, right?
No nudity in this at all. Yeah. 2015. This one, not exploitative at all. But the closest they got was, which I thought was kind of funny, was so the girls are out there. They're all wearing like these like mini jean shorts and like white undershirts, and they're doing manual labor or something like that. And I'm so thirsty. So they get the water bottle. And they're like,
right,
like they did the thing. I thought it was kind of funny. It was obviously kind of like not real.
But even that was surprisingly tame because they all have lingerie on underneath as well.
Yeah,
right? So
of course. Yeah, so nothing. Yeah.
I was wondering about it. I was wondering if it was because it was toned down for television.
Maybe, something like that. Yeah, something like that. So something, probably he was toning it down for whatever market he was trying to get it to. But this one, of course, has two recognizable named actresses in it. First of all, Tracy.
A few more maybe if you follow.
Screen. I guess more if you follow. Yeah, but the two that I even knew. First of all, Tracy Lords. Miss Scandal herself, I guess, right? As a tough cop, and Dominique Swain, who was Lolita in the Jeremy Irons remake in the 90s, whatever. Right? So
one of the great the thing with that as well is one of those great casting coups in need of a better film, right? Like Jeremy Irons is a perfect choice to play
Humbert.
I think. Like that's brilliant. That's exactly who it should. So much better than I mean, it's a better film, but James Mason doesn't really scream Humbert to me. Jeremy Irons bang on, but the film's not that
good. Yeah.
not that great. No.
Yeah.
Although they do,
But
I don't know. Weirdly, the one thing I would say about the remake of Lolita, though, is so Stanley Kubrick's Lolita is obviously a much better film, but it's almost like it's so different in tone, because I don't think you could do that in 1962 maybe for mainstream film. Whereas the Adrian Lyne version, they try and make you see the Lolita character through Jeremy Irons's eyes, so they do eroticize it more as much as they could without getting into problematic territory.
Sure.
But it's just not a very. But it's interesting that they tried to do it, right?
Right.
But yeah, Dominic Swain, who did that, and then made a whole bunch of these shitty films, like
shitty films and leading up to this one, right? So and is still and is showing them probably the reason she never became more is because she's actually a pretty fucking terrible actress.
But to be fair, she is saddled with having a very annoying catchphrase as well, which
I guess so. Yeah. So
crap on a cracker. And that's it. But they bring it out, they wheel it out quite a few times.
Yeah, quite a few times. Yeah,
including an ending, which get ahead of ourselves here. But clearly, this was set up for a sequel, right? That
yes,
happened, right?
Yeah, never happened. Yeah. So
I mean, we're lucky it didn't happen, but I'm kind of surprised it didn't.
I don't know if I could have made.
Had, I don't know, constipation and couldn't get off the toilet for a week or something when they were supposed to film it or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
We were saved from having to watch that as the 11th film in this franchise.
Right.
So this is a shark movie. So it's kind of on the heels of Sharknado, which spawned a bunch of shark or I guess sort of ferocious animal / natural disaster movies.
Well, I think there's a series as well, isn't there? Like a loose series. And no, Ron, we're not doing it for a hobby. Isn't there like a land shark and a ghost shark and there's a whole bunch of I know there's at least another 2 or 3 films that do so the thing here is the shark can go on under land as well.
Under land, yeah. So
and I don't think this is the first one that did it. I think so. This could make it a semi-sequel or follow-up to. I think it's called Land Shark, but then there's like ghost sharks, and they kind of do the same thing, but they're ghosts. And I don't know. I gave up on all this rubbish quite a long time. Like I started watching some of them, and then I was like, no. This is I respect myself.
Life is too short to waste my life on this.
And at this point, they've got so convoluted, right? They're like fucking Viking ghost octa sharks versus
from outer space.
Yeah.
With So
the thing is, the thing that's most annoying about those, and it's either sci-fi or the Asylum or whoever doing these. The annoying thing about it is they should be fun, right? That's the thing. They should be good, tongue-in-cheek fun. Put some once famous, like it's a Tara Reid who's in all those.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, that's right, yeah, and the Sharknado anyway. So.
And they should be.
And Ian Ziering, right, from Beverly Hills.
They should be a little, somewhat amusing, right? But the thing is, they rarely are. They're usually like this, right? They're just kind of boring and
boring and
it's just it seems like a shame because that they should be fun. That's the thing. They should be.
I think the original Sharknado was kind of fun, and I think that was why it kind of became like, hey, what's this kind of fun, ridiculous movie? And then like, okay, let's make a whole bunch more of them and whatever. And then they just forgot what made it fun about it.
It's surprising how little. The only one I remember watching and thinking, okay, that was as fun as the premise was. Did you ever see Mega Piranha with Tiffany? Yeah, that was
Tiffany.
I did.
Tiffany the singer, Tiffany.
Tiffany, yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I thought that worked. Mega Piranha, I remember thinking was
Mega Piranha. No, I see that one.
Yeah,
I liked the original Piranha.
Yeah, but that's a different kettle of piranha, isn't it? So
yeah. See what you did there.
I did, yeah.
Anyway,
Big
so this one has yeah, they're drilling fracking. That's right, they're fracking, and yeah, and they
I'm
release
sure that's
some.
not how you frack, by the way. Is
Yeah, I
like
know.
big automatic weapons and like
This fracking movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they release some prehistoric sharks who have the ability to also, you know, dig under land and things like that. So, and they can also apparently swim in like 30 centimeters of water. Yeah, and so they, yeah, and yeah, Dominique Swain. So there's like they're most of the girls are in prisoners and they're doing manual labor, and Dominique Swain is one of their girlfriends who comes to
right, like a gangster's mall type, right?
Yeah, who comes to kind of like you know, free her girlfriend, and then kind of like they kind of take over. Did they kill the guards or just keep them hostage? I can't remember.
I don't care.
Can't remember. But anyway, so that's the idea. So that's them kind of on the run, and then Tracy Lords is a cop with her partner who find out that it must be this thing. This was the most ridiculous thing about this movie, in a wholly ridiculous movie, is that Tracy Lords is a cop with her partner who are supposed to be a cop, and they literally spend the entire movie going there. And then they arrive at the very end of the movie and they don't do anything. Well, there's literally no point for that character whatsoever, because it's just them figuring out and then going there. And then at the end, they arrive, the end. Right?
There's no way that guy is 29 years old either.
Yeah.
He's easily 10 years older than that.
Right? Oh, yeah. It was, yeah. So,
now, I have to say, the one element about this film that surprised me a little bit was, unfortunately, they don't have good dialogue.
No.
To speak.
Yeah.
But I thought...
kind of like what you just did.
Yeah, exactly.
To speak.
I'm written by Jim Wynorski today. But I thought Tracy Lords was kind of surprisingly quite good as that. I would watch a film with Tracy Lords as an older cop with she's got a kind of sense of timing and humor about herself, and I was thinking it's a shame someone didn't actually write a funny script, because I can imagine Tracy Lords might actually be quite funny.
She did the best with what she was she was given.
I was kind of surprised by that, because obviously I remember the early days of Tracy Lords, and I promise I don't have any of that stuff on my hard drive anymore, honest gov. And then I remember her transitioning into regular films, and yeah, I mean, you know, neither here nor there, but she seems to have actually kind of got better. Like I don't know, I sense that she would actually be, I can imagine her doing that character in a better film and kind of being quite funny and charming. I was kind of surprised. Right, yeah. I didn't expect.
I don't really know a lot about her. I mean, I know of her, of course, and I know kind of like the basics of her story.
Your Honor.
Huh?
Your Honor. I don't know anything about her.
Yeah. But I kind of feel sorry for her almost, because it's almost like she can never go legit. Do you know what I mean? And despite the fact that maybe she might actually be okay in a regular movie, I think that the movie immediately would get you get a reputation for casting her. Like, it's not like, I think no one can cast her without it being her. You know what I mean? So about her, you know. So
she's bigger than.
Yeah. So I feel kind of bad for her that she's sort of like can't get out of her own way, I guess, right? So I guess that makes sense. So
I can imagine, like, in another 20 years or something, I can imagine someone doing like a Nebraska or a Lucky.
Well, yeah, I mean,
based around her.
I could see like Tarantino kind of like casting her in one of his movies or something, bringing her back or something like that. But
no, I was genuinely surprised, because I haven't been paying attention. I was surprised that she does seem to have chops to a certain degree, right?
Yeah. I think you could see it better than I can, because couldn't see through the terrible script, whatever. But
right. No, it's and also I don't know if you know the answer to this. peaches and beans. Is that a thing? Is that a real thing? Do people eat peaches?
Never heard of it. Yeah, never heard of
Right.
it. Yeah, good.
Okay.
I don't know.
Is that a joke? Is it?
Yeah, I don't know. Never heard of it. So, yeah.
I
But
mean, it doesn't
yeah,
strike me as a good idea.
no, it doesn't sound good. I used to eat beans all the time. I know beans is part of your kind of staple diet in the UK, right?
Yeah, I eat beans occasionally now as well, but they're more
Yeah.
difficult to find baked beans.
Yeah, they're expensive because they'll be imported. We'd eat beans, but always with hot dogs or wieners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so but never peaches. I don't imagine they go well together, but whatever. Anyway, anything else to say about Sharkensaw Women's Prison?
No.
And thankfully, that is the end of Jim Warnowski for us.
Yay.
Yay! Bye bye, Jim. Yeah, and so we finish it off with the Slumber Party Massacre reboot from 2 years ago, 2021, which was made for Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, it's a South African film as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Although I mean, no one comes out and says, we are in America, but it's clearly supposed to be America. And luckily, all these actors do a better job than what's her face at doing American accents, right? Because
right, yes,
I wouldn't have known there's no sign that this wasn't made in America, right? It doesn't.
Right, yeah.
And apparently a lot of these people are, relatively well known. A lot of them seem to have done a lot of South African television. So
okay,
yeah. So they may be bigger names in South Africa. I don't know.
Right. This one also also going back to the written directed by women again. And the writer of this one, interestingly, here's our own loose connection. The writer of this one wrote the reboot of Leprechaun.
Susan Cayley.
Yeah. So which, if you remember, was our favorite of the Leprechaun series, which was the one movie which we thought kind of nailed the tone better than the actual original ones, right?
In fact, yes, and maybe this one almost succeeded.
Almost got there too. I would say when I watched this, I was like, I thought this one was pretty good. It didn't entirely stick the landing,
no,
more or less, but it definitely was closer to what the series should have been. Than it's similar to the Leprechaun reboot. She got the tone better than the originals did, almost, right? So I think she kind of knew what it was supposed to be, and mostly got it right. I think they kind of, again, like some of the other ones, ran out a little bit out of steam, but I think it definitely started quite strong. It was definitely made me sit up and watch a little bit more, after some of the slogs that we've gone through. This was the fourth one I watched because I watched all of them together, but it was definitely better after part 3. And it definitely has more, is entirely winking at the audience. It definitely is like a satire, a parody of the whole series. It's obviously she's familiar with the series and what it kind of brings, and they find the guitar from part 2 in the closet, and and the driller killer comes back, right? And the whole thing, of course, is reversed on it. So rather than the sexualizing the exploitation of the women, this one is exploitation of the men, right? So it's showing their butts and some of that, and they have the pillow fight and stuff, and pillow fight with and of course it's all done for comedic effect, which is I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it was definitely one of the more enjoyable ones of the series, I thought. So
yeah. This one directed by Danishka Esterhazy, who has another film I'm quite interested to see now. She directed a film called the Banana Splits movie, which which seems to be
I've heard of that. So I think that was on my list of something I'd be interested to watch.
Yeah, where I'm not exactly sure what happens, but yeah, during the recording of the Banana Splits show or something, they start killing. I quite like the idea of a killer banana splits.
Right.
Film. So I don't know if it's any good, but kind of curious. So in this one it starts in there's a flashback to the 90s, and there's the driller killer who kind of has the same dialogue as from the previous films, right? As little as he says.
Right.
Love you,
I
or
love you.
pretty,
I
or
love you.
yeah. Again, it's odd in a way that the, they've gone that there's the series seems to have enough traction that they can do a reboot, but still you're back a little bit to it not really being a very strong character. So they do something else with it, right? So they make a big deal out of the fact that he's it's kind of one of the running jokes is even though they've like stabbed him like a million times and beaten him up and stuff, when you take your eyes off, he's gone, right? Someone has to
He's gone again. Yeah, yeah.
As the one problem I had with this film,
But also they brought in the Friday the 13th thing where actually it was not just him but also his mother.
right.
So
Right.
it's actually two killers, right? So that's one of the reasons.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. Like some of the gender swap stuff was quite amusing, if not like
a little too on the nose.
Yeah, I'd like to see people go further with that.
Right.
Like at this point, you're like, yeah, okay, I get it. You know, sexualizing the men. But yeah, ha ha ha, that's great. I know there's some weird people on the internet who are probably furious about it. God, goddamn woke, fucking, you know. But ignore them.
Yeah,
they're
right.
dying out. But you're like, okay, do more with it, right? Like, go
yeah.
Like exploit the men more. You know.
Yeah,
like,
I guess. Yeah.
Have the cocks, you know, flat.
Yeah, but I mean, it was for the Sci-Fi Channel, so I assume that they were somewhat limited by what they were able to show.
Yeah, I
like,
think we might have seen a censored version as well, actually.
Oh, really?
I was reading the I don't know if they actually did though. They were planning to put it out after its original broadcast, like an unrated version, but I don't know if they actually did.
So yeah, so maybe they did go farther, but they just
Maybe,
couldn't use some of that stuff, right? So yeah, I think
But just in general, but the problem I had with it a little bit was a tonal problem. Like, so I think it was probably strongest when it was doing that. But every now and again, it seemed like obligated to be a regular horror film for a while.
Right.
And
yeah.
it wasn't that great as a horror film.
Yeah.
It was, or rather, it was very standard, nothing special. I mean, there were a few flashes. I thought some of the kills were kind of interesting. I quite liked the person who gets trapped under the bonnet of a car and the fan, the engine fan.
Oh yeah.
I thought, oh, I haven't seen that before. I don't think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But the horror stuff was a little bit like that was much less inspired. So when it switched to being a regular horror film, that was when it was least interesting. And then when it was doing the other stuff, I thought that was more its strong point.
Right. Of course. Yeah. It was definitely more about the subverting expectations and gender swapping and stuff like that. And then when and I said that the first 2/3 was pretty good. But then the last third just kind of like sputtered out, and it just kind of like it just went into like a standard, kind of thing. And like I think the one example I could give of this one how it sputters out is the very very end. Like it kills the mother. It ends up being that the mother was also behind it. Kills the mother, and the last line of the movie is "It's over." The end. Like it was just like like if you ever want to end your movie on like the worst possible note, end it by saying "It's over." The end, right? Like so it's
also, just in case you were wondering, Myla Rain is not Anya Taylor-Joy's younger sister, although you could have sworn she is.
Yeah, it looks like it.
I mean, I was quite I had to look it up. I was like, she's got to be like a younger sister or something. But
it definitely does look like her. Yeah. So
and like I said, the other people in this, Hannah Gonera, Francis Sholto Douglas,
McGregor.
Some of the guys as well. Apparently, they're in like actually, it gave me a little bit of a list actually of some South African TV shows that look kind of interesting. There's one called Blood Drive that looks kind of interesting. That looks like and Warrior Nun. I had never heard of these before, so it
I heard of Warrior Nun. It's the it's a Netflix show, I think. I believe.
Yes.
So I've heard of it. I haven't seen it though, but I don't know if it's any good.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, there's certainly
yeah,
not.
so it was a valiant effort, and as I liked the Leprechaun reboot, had high hopes for this, and it started out pretty strong. I think probably she kind of like lost her way about 2/3 of the way through, but it was too bad. It was an almost strong entry. It was definitely one of the better than some of the other ones though. So I'd say it was still
Well, let's hope that they really go for, if they do another one, if they go for it the way the original Slumber Party Massacre 2 did, right?
Right.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, full left turn. Yeah, maybe they do a. Well, I mean, they did reference the guitar. They found the guitar in the closet. So so it's but anyway, yeah. So
there we go.
Anyway,
that's
our
year.
Franchise,
right?
In the loosest sense of the term, for this Halloween. So happy Halloween, Clive.
Happy Halloween.
All right, see you next time. Have a spooky day.
Yes.
Yeah, and
sorry, I'm not up on my. I'm not.
And Clive.
Halloweeny.
Clive.
I
I love you.